the League of Women Voters of South San Mateo County, I welcome the candidates and especially you, the audience, to this free public forum for the City Council for East Palo Alto. I am Linda Popke and I will be your moderator for this evening. The League of Women Voters is a national, nonpartisan volunteer organization of women and men. Our education mission is to encourage your active and informed participation in government at every level. The League does not endorse candidates or political parties. Our sole interest is in helping voters gain fair and unbiased information in order to make an informed decision on or before Election Day, November 3rd. In addition to this forum, I encourage you to visit the California State League of Women Voters election website, votersedge.org, for information about all the candidates and measures on your ballot. Please note that this forum is being recorded and it will be available for replay on our League website soon. The 2020 elections are the first time the League has hosted these candidate forums online via Zoom webinars. Here are the procedures for tonight's candidate forum. Please know, first of all, if your connection drops, you may easily rejoin by returning to your confirmation email and once again clicking the unique link you received after registration. During registration for this event, members of the public were invited to submit questions for the candidates. The questions that you hear tonight have been drawn from these submissions. Questions from the audience are also welcome during tonight's forum, and we will ask them of the candidates if time permits. A League member has drawn numbers in advance to determine which candidate goes first. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. Each candidate will also have 2 minutes to respond to each question. A League of Women Voters volunteer is monitoring the time. Our timekeeper tonight is Ann Draper. She will hold a yellow paddle when you, candidates, have 30 seconds left, and then a red stop paddle when your time is up. For this election, there are 3 seats to be elected to the East Palo Alto City Council, and there are 7 candidates. The candidates are, in alphabetical order, Lisa Gauthier, Stuart Highland, Webster Lincoln, Antonio Lopez, Juan Mendez, Larry Moody, and Carlos Romero. The candidate speaking order was determined randomly, a drawing of lots in advance by the League, for the order of the opening statements. The reverse order will be used for the closing statements. The order of speaking is as follows: Carlos Romero, Juan Mendez, Webster Lincoln, Stuart Highland, Lisa Gauthier, Antonio Lopez, and Larry Moody. Okay, so we're going to start. Carlos, you are first with your opening statement.
There, I should be unmuted, correct? Can you hear me?
You are unmuted.
Yeah.
You are good.
Well, thank you very much for holding this forum. This is maybe the 4th one of your forums that I've participated in. Very much appreciate it. Yes, again, I am Carlos Romero. I am the present Vice Mayor of the City of East Palo Alto. I've served approximately 10 years. Please keep in mind that we're all one among equals. Our Vice Mayor and Mayor are elected on a yearly basis. So that is actually an indication of how I feel that the council should be working is in a collaborative fashion in which no one particular member of the council should be able to dominate. My particular perspective on politics, and certainly on being a politician, is to be as open as possible and also to be as collaborative as possible with my fellow council members as well as with community. I think carrying equity and carrying issues of social justice to the forefront for me is one of the guiding principles. And certainly I have, over the last 10 years, worked on many, many issues that advance the issue of equity and fairness and social justice. I will continue to do so over the next 4 years should you decide to elect me, and certainly will try in a very collaborative fashion to fashion projects, programs, and policies that advance, again, social and economic justice for everyone in East Palo Alto. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Carlos. Juan, your turn next.
Okay, sorry about that. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. For those of you who are joining in through YouTube, I want to go ahead and introduce a little bit about myself. I'm an East Palo Alto native, a recent college graduate, and a current planning commissioner alternate in East Palo Alto. I am running to address key issues in our city. Some of those include building affordable housing, mitigating traffic congestion, um, enhancing our education system, and building a better environment for East Palo Alto. I just want to thank everyone for being, like I said in the beginning, I just want to thank everyone for being here, and I'm excited to see what our fellow candidates have to say. And, this is my first time joining, so I'm just very new to the experience. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, Juan. That's great. Okay, Webster, you're next.
Thank you for inviting me to come and speak. But nevertheless, having grown up in East Palo Alto and been involved in the community throughout my life, I know the challenges of our community and I understand the needs of our people. And I want to bring fresh ideas and positive change to East Palo Alto by running for city council. As a graduate of San Jose State University, I earned my bachelor's in psychology with minors in biological science and chemistry. In the biological science graduate program, my research has been published in top biomedical journals. I've previously worked at the Stanford Research Institute, Merck, and have taken advanced courses at Harvard Medical School. Currently, I work as a data scientist at Genentech, where I collaborate to advance digital pathology and personalized healthcare projects that help physicians accurately diagnose disease and match patients to effective therapies. In addition to work, I've been an advocate for programs such as Build that teach high school students entrepreneurship and helping them attend college. My goals as a council member is to improve quality of life, health, and housing security for all members of our community. I will work on initiatives that help bring jobs and businesses to East Palo Alto that hire and employ those within our community. I will focus on opportunities to fight poverty and homelessness and invest in our youth, our seniors, and our families that make East Palo Alto a cultural place. And I will also approve of developments that increase access to affordable and low-income housing. In the presence of the COVID-19 crisis, it's now more important than ever to have competent and committed leadership, as many residents face displacement. I'm asking for your support and your vote in this upcoming election, and I look forward to the honor of serving our community of East Palo Alto. Thank you.
Thank you, Webster. Stuart, your turn.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stuart Highland, and I've decided to run for city council because I've spent the better part of 20 years organizing outside around issues of affordable housing, education, disrupting the pipeline that brings a lot of our youth into the juvenile justice system, and worked across boundaries of language and culture to bring folks together, not only with our city, but with their fellow neighbors on the block. It's really important for me to be here in East Palo Alto, partially because East Palo Alto has given me my greatest gift, my wife and my family. Because my wife was born and raised here. However, my wife immigrated here from Mexico, but she's a long-term resident longer than I am. I didn't move here until about 1984 from Oakland, California, and was really blessed to find the activist community where I felt totally at home with people like Dr. Omawali Satterwhite, Bob Hoover, Mother Barbara Mouton. So it's in that tradition of the incorporation that I want to continue. And I'm really grateful to see young folks here stepping up. I would like to be a bridge from that tradition to continue to keep long-term East Palo Alto residents here and invite folks that want to be a part of our diverse, culturally and economically diverse community. And look forward to, if I'm elected, to working on the city council and being on the other side of the mic and having to hear from you all in the community. And I guarantee you, I will actively listen to all of your concerns and look for solutions.
Thank you, Stuart. Lisa, you're next.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Lisa Gaucher. I'm a longtime resident of East Palo Alto. My family moved here in 1967, so I'm a product of this great community. And I've had the opportunity to raise my children here as well. East Palo Alto means a lot to me, and I look forward to, with your help, continuing the work that we've already started on the council to support affordable housing. I look forward to starting and promoting a youth commission within our city to make sure that we're developing our youth leadership so that those who are coming up behind us have an on-ramp to help us within the city. But even before then, I think there's an opportunity where we're missing those voices and we're not hearing from our youth within our city. And I work really hard to address the food insecurities within our city as well. I didn't think I would want to be a council member. This wasn't something that I sought to do. I was asked to run for council. And I heard from my daughter who said that, Mom, if you're not at the table, someone else will be making decisions for you, but I trust your decision making. I have tried to be there for this community and show up in all areas. And I hope that the city of East Palo Alto will continue to allow me to do the great work. It is such a pleasure to be in a leadership role in the community that developed me and made me, and I'm proud to be a product of this great city. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Antonio, your turn.
Thank you, League of Women Voters, for facilitating this event. Thank you for everyone for joining. Similar to Sister Lisa, I did not have per se political ambition stepping up, but seeing the state of my community. I just finished a master's in Oxford University this past year on a Marshall Scholarship, and it is a whirlwind, a whiplash, if you will, to have so much success personally, but come into these streets and seeing my neighbors leave the, pushed out of their homes, folks not able to know what they're going to eat next month. And so when I'm thinking about running for office, it's not even because there is some, desire per se for fame or that. It is a lack of youth leadership. And I understand as a young man myself, we need to help promote and elevate and inspire the next generation, because we're also thinking about, where am I going to live? As East Palo Alto becomes more expensive, more costly, what are the affordable homes that are going to be built for folks like myself who did all the right things? So they're 26, young, educated, but the last apartments that were built in East Palo Alto was in 2003. I was 9 years old. And so when we're thinking about the generation that's rising up like myself, we have to have folks on the table, as Sister Lisa said, right, who are youth, who know the challenge of being millennial, who know that real wages are stagnant, right, and who have an in-touch understanding of the community. And so I think it is crucially important to make sure we have those folks advocated and represented. So I'm running for youth development. We have 19% residents who have a bachelor's, and Palo Alto is 83%. We have an enormous disparity that we need to help inspire that growth. We have streets that are crowded, and we have to make sure that we can make sure that our residents foster amicable relations. And again, someone in touch with that community is so important. And finally, making sure that we have affordable housing. As I said, East Palo Alto will continue to be more and more expensive. And I refuse to believe that in the most wealthy part of one of the wealthy parts of the world, Silicon Valley, that we have struggles with employment, struggles with housing. Our community deserves more dignity. And I believe we need the energy, passion, and fervor of a young person in that council. And that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Antonio. Larry, your turn.
Okay. Thank you again, League of Women Voters, for putting on this forum. I am Larry Moody. I am the father of 4, and my wife Lisa and I are committed members of the East Palo Alto community. I arrived here in 1992, and ever since when I first arrived here, I really saw East Palo Alto as my community of calling, where this community, I found some of the greatest mentors and role models and servant leaders ever. Barbara Mouton and Bob Hoover and Dr. Faye McNair Knox and many others. I was able to sit at their foot. I was able to get an opportunity to hear from them, their love and their passion for the East Palo Alto community. I was one of many who decided that the change we wanted for East Palo Alto began within. East Palo Alto is a story of redemption and moving forward. While we are no longer that community of the 90s, many of the lessons and traditions of that era we proudly carry over into East Palo Alto today. I was there then and I'm here now. Serving on the school board, the sanitary district, city council, 2012 through present, and the mayor's office in 2017. I'm an experienced, trusted leader whose endorsements come from throughout the state, region, and community. One of the things that I'm most proud about is the way that our city council has conducted themselves, certainly over the last 2 years. We've formulated a first-class staff. Our operations at City Hall are the best that they ever been. We have a customer service mentality towards all of our local residents. And we've been a council that has been very responsive to the epidemics as they presented themselves to us during the season. Yet what's most important is how we treat one another as we go forward. I want to be a part of the movement of being a better East Palo Alto each and every day. I want you to continue to lead in the conversation of being a better community, one which we can be proud to raise our sons and daughters. East Palo Alto is really moving in the right direction. We have the opportunity to really put a stamp on our position here in Silicon Valley, to do economic development, to do affordable housing, and to build relationships with the Ravenswood City School District in such a way that all of the community rises at the same level.
We need to cut you off, Larry, because you're over your time. But
It will
thank
be
you
the
so
first
much.
time I've been cut off. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, candidates, for your opening statements. We're going to move to the questions. Our first question is about affordable housing. How would you protect and increase affordable housing? And also, how would you address the sewer connection fee issues? And to start this off, we're going to start with Juan.
Hello? Okay. Yeah, affordable housing is an issue we need to address nationally and regionally. Most importantly, East Palo Alto provides a large portion of affordable housing in our region. How I plan on addressing and building more affordable housing in our community is by streamlining the process of affordable housing. As a planning commissioner alternate, I understand that it takes about 18 months to build multifamily units in East Palo Alto, a process that is way too long and needs to be shortened somehow. We need to approve affordable housing at higher rates, of course, making them safe, as long as they meet building codes, EIR reports, and what's it called? Nonetheless, we just need to build affordable housing at higher rates. Another way that I want to build affordable housing is by implementing an ADU program in order to I'm sorry, I'm blanking out. In order to help homeowners build more ADUs. What that program looks like is I'm trying to create an incentive for homeowners to build these ADUs in their homes. Basically, this program will help homeowners go through the process of building ADUs with funding from the city, but with the condition that these ADUs be rented out to community members in East Palo Alto for a certain amount of time. After that time is up, the homeowner has the full discretion to decide what they want to do with that ADU. In the meanwhile, that program will be helping the residents that are living in the ADUs prepare for long-term housing. What that looks like is, programs that help with budgeting, programs that help with managing money, and then programs that will help them apply for housing and become homeowners at some point. And that is my vision for creating more affordable housing in East Palo Alto.
Great. Thank you, Juan. We're going to move next to Webster. Can you tell us about affordable housing?
The affordable housing problem isn't something unique to East Palo Alto. It's a regional issue, and we kind of have to work together as a region to solve these problems. I believe East Palo Alto produces the majority of affordable housing in the area, and we need to continue to produce and provide housing for a diverse array of income levels and demographics. In addition, we also need to protect the existing supply of affordable housing. And as a council member, I would like to partner with the sanitary district and other stakeholders within the community to move good development forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Webster. Stuart, can you tell us about affordable housing?
Yeah, my experience with affordable housing has a lot to do with the work I do with the Housing Leadership Council, but also experience as former board chair of EPA Can Do, our own affordable housing developer in East Palo Alto. And the last couple of years, we've passed like Measure HH, which provides an additional funding stream for affordable housing, which is really helpful. And I want to raise up Measure V, which will be on the ballot for us in East Palo Alto as another funding pipeline for affordable housing that we should all vote yes on Measure V. In regards to that, streamlining the process, which Brother Juan Mendez said before, is really critical, especially on affordable housing. However, as you stated in your question, there are infrastructure challenges to be met, such with the sanitary district. It's essential for the city council to work with all of the players that are stakeholders. And so to continue the dialogue that was started earlier this year around the Light Tree project and coming up with a solution for that. But it really came down to the wire when it didn't need to. So we need to begin that dialogue well ahead of time. Look what's in the pipeline, be really clear. We have great staff for that. Patrick Heisinger is a great associate city manager and housing person. And so we can lay that all out with the sanitary district and kind of map out how it's going to work in a way it won't negatively impact the residents who are receiving services already. So we talked about streamlining. We talked about also the sanitary district. And I just want to say on the regional issues, we are leaders. It's time for us to be delegates, to go out and encourage other cities to follow suit and take on this regional problem with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Lisa, tell us your thoughts about affordable housing, please.
Sure, thank you. And Stuart, you're right. East Palo Alto has been the leader of affordable housing. But when you look at our housing structure and the way that things are set up with the rent stabilization, what's affordable if once somebody moves out of an apartment, if that apartment can then go to market rate? We need to be able to figure out how to sustain that. And when you think about affordable housing and within our community, I commend the city council because we have done a great job on affordable housing. We are the leaders. We do have housing on, there's property on Week Street that we have set aside for affordable housing, but it takes funds to build housing. So we are building the funds. We have put in ballot measures such as HH and others, and Measure V that's on the ballot now that will help us also to put more money towards affordable housing. When it comes to ADUs, we have done our share. The state has already mandated that individuals can build ADUs, and we need to make sure that that process is streamlined and individuals can go through and make sure that there's going to be a housing. When it comes to the sanitary district, I know that we have a subcommittee that's representing the city council that works with the sanitary district to evaluate and talk about development. And I'm waiting for them to come back and come to the council and give us some information. But while we're waiting, I think it is also prudent that we are able to evaluate our infrastructure as a whole and see what the issue is with the sanitary district, since it seems like it's so out of tilt at times. Affordable housing is important. We need to address Costa-Hawkins as well. East Palo Alto is a city that has made sure that our residents have a place to stay, but we need to create additional housing. I agree with the other candidates as well. We need to do more jobs to make sure that the middle age, those who are coming back from college, have affordable housing as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. I just want to remind all the candidates, if you're not speaking, to please make sure that you are muted so we don't have any additional noise. And then I'm going to ask Antonio for your thoughts about affordable housing.
Yeah, I concur so much with what Sister Lisa was saying. And I think when we're thinking in the future, production is absolutely a must. You know, we have a 20% city ordinance, right? We're making sure that our affordable housing stays on par. And we certainly are a front runner for the Bay Area in terms of what affordable housing looks like. What I am concerned is the short-term tidal wave that COVID has created. We are poised to witness some of the worst displacement of low-income minority folks here in the Bay Area, not just in East Palo Alto, but in San Mateo. So the clock is ticking. When Gavin Newsom did AB 3088, what are we going to do as a city? Because we're talking about projects that will happen 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now at best. And so we have to make sure that, you know, as we're moving forward, as we're moving forward, you know, especially in these 6, 7 months, how are we going to protect those communities where upwards of rent is upwards of $3,000 in some areas, right? Where people are out of unemployed and so forth. And so for me, it becomes being strategic and multifaceted, not just one solution. And I think all folks are saying the same thing, whether it's Juan's affordable dwelling units or making sure our code is up to par, or it's also alternatives like community land trust, because most of the price of a house has to do with the land, not necessarily the building. And so if we can help expand and invest in our land trust like Pahali and negotiate with developers and say, hey, you know, you have this piece and we're going to take care of this one, right? It calls for dialogue, communication. And I just want to bring in also on alternatives, the words of Joe Biden, where he said in May, in Good Morning America, there should be rent forgiveness and there should be mortgage forgiveness now in the middle of a crisis, not paid later forgiveness. It's critically important to people who are in the lower income strata. And I don't think it is hyperbole to say this was the city that he was referring to. And if a centrist president like Joe Biden can go on the record and say rent forgiveness is on the table, then we also have to explore that there will be nothing short of state and federal aid that will get us out, nothing less. Philanthropy is important, but it is insufficient in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you so much, Antonio. Larry, could you tell us your thoughts on affordable housing?
Yes, I agree with everyone. I mean, it's not our issue is affordable housing for our local residents. Everyone knows that our challenge is land. You know, where's the land, right, that the city owns that we can actually develop, right, affordable housing. We have one, as Lisa talked about, we actually have one parcel on 935 Week Street. We're excited about that. The council has positioned ourselves to develop anywhere from 120 to 140 units for extremely low and moderate income individuals, right? So we're excited about that. And part of that, the funding comes from something I was involved in and Councilmember Romero in the negotiations with Facebook 3 years ago, when we developed what is now called as the Catalyst Fund. We actually had Facebook donate $20 million to this fund so we can identify affordable housing projects, not only for the East Palo Alto community, but in neighboring communities as well that wanted to do those affordable housing projects. Now, I've served on the Housing and Community Development Commission for San Mateo County for the last 4 years. I've been very instrumental around the ADU strategy for San Mateo County. As one of the candidates spoke, we want to lead the way in theory at this point, as Stuart said, because our best practices are practices that the rest of the county needs to embrace. We need to expand the territory and the reach of affordable housing. We can't be the dormitory for Silicon Valley, where we're just building housing and we don't have an economic development strategy. People are living here, but they're not creating jobs for our community. I think there's a dynamic here that we all have to honestly address as it relates to how do we expand the reach. I served as the president of the Peninsula Division of the California League of Cities, which is comprised of 31 cities. As the leader, we embrace this conversation region-wide about
Larry,
everyone needs to do their fair share.
Larry, we need to cut you off again.
We have a better outcome around the affordable housing strategy.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Carlos, your turn. Please unmute yourself and then mute yourself afterwards. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I've been working in East Palo Alto for 42 years since my freshman year at Stanford, both tutoring for those first 4 years. And then 38 years ago, I was involved as one of the key members of the East Palo Alto Apache, which is the East Palo Alto Citizens Committee on Incorporation. And from the very beginning, I have been involved directly with issues of housing. I'm an affordable housing developer and an economic development professional by training, having studied economics and international relations at Stanford, and also having gone to the Kennedy School at Harvard as a Fannie Mae Fellow, and then was awarded a subsequent fellowship at the Graduate School of Design to study housing policy as well as advanced housing finance. I can say that for the entire 9-county Bay Area, with the exception of San Francisco and possibly Oakland, and I think we actually may beat Oakland, we have 15 policies in place that indeed promote affordable housing, inclusionary zoning, a jobs housing linkage fee, a housing impact fee. We have rent control, which is vitally important because we have to protect our tenants. We have just cause eviction. We have funding measures like Measure O, Measure H. We have some of the money that's still coming in from the redevelopment agencies, successor agencies. We actually have in development right now 330 units of affordable housing. It is not enough, and we understand that. But the fact that we have, and I have been at the forefront of creating the funds necessary, such as O, as HH, certainly the commercial housing impact fee, the inclusionary zoning. I have been at the forefront of passing those policies because it is vitally important to put housing as front and center to make sure that the people who live here in East Palo Alto, low income people of color and working class folks, can remain. And the only way to do that is indeed to promote these policies. I want to also very quickly, and we can always do more. And we're trying to, but again, it is a function of money. There is no one silver bullet. It's one of the reasons we have 15 policies. And as someone said earlier, we're actually moving toward right now having a land trust established, and that's what Measure V would actually do.
Carlos. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, I'm going to cut you all off at 2 minutes just so everybody has a chance to chat. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question, which is about development. What types of commercial development would you encourage, and what types would you discourage? So we're going to start this time with Webster. Webster, tell us about encouraging and discouraging in terms of commercial development.
So right now there's 15 active projects currently being planned in East Palo Alto. That includes a school, I think 7 residential, and 3 office projects, and 4 mixed-use developments. But what's important is that, and what most people I've spoken with, is that our diversity is at stake. That's what's important. And how can we keep our residents? One of the things that we need to do is to make sure that development is serving the residents of East Palo Alto, and to ensure that this new development is paying its fair share for infrastructure and utility improvements that it needs. Development should happen, but not at the expense of residents in our city and vulnerable residents. And we should focus on bringing small businesses and jobs that hire those within our community to improve our jobs to housing and balance within East Palo Alto. So development needs to be equitable and needs to be for the residents of East Palo Alto. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Webster. Stuart, talk to us about development.
So my concern about development is very similar to Webster's, and I think most of us on this group, about protecting the citizens currently living in East Palo Alto. I'm very concerned about the Ravenswood Business District specific plan, how it's being built out. There's been some discussion on the city council about maybe revisiting that plan. I was one of the organizers, along with other folks from the Envision Transform Build group, who reached out and brought residents together with the city to develop that plan that was finalized in 2010, 2012. And so I don't want to see the plan change, because those folks were designing something that would support them. There was mixed use where there was some housing, considering subsidized business spaces, where like a cocina type model in San Francisco, where folks are sharing a kitchen for food trucks, that sort of thing. That definitely works with our community. Our community can do that immediately. Along with that, in 2018, when we passed Measure HH, and I was part of that committee that knocked on doors and encouraged folks to do it, is the career ladder path part of Measure HH, where money is set aside from the tenants of the office spaces that would be leased from the new buildings that are going up, to develop career paths for those new technology careers, the office careers, and even the construction and building maintenance. So it helps vocations and also helps other career paths. It's critical for us to get ahead of that, because the development curve is going to take time. So we will have to work with the school districts, both not just Ravenswood, but also high school district, and develop paid internships with some of those businesses to encourage them to take our young folks on and help them build that career. But it's going to definitely take some planning. I left out the community colleges as well, because that's a good pipeline for our folks to prepare. Sometimes you don't need a 4-year degree. You can get a 2-year degree and be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Lisa, tell us your thoughts about development.
Sure, when you think about development, land is going to be so critical. When we think about how we're going to develop this city and the development that is proposed, you know, the great thing about East Palo Alto is where we are, the treasure, and to be able to see the water and to really enjoy the land that we have. And I don't want to see a whole bunch of 8-story buildings in our city to where you're blocking the view of the bay and the water. So it's going to be important to make sure that we reduce or eliminate any displacement of our current small businesses. So if development is coming in, we need to make sure that we are protecting the small businesses that have taken care of us and provided for us for so long. I'm not looking for any development that's going to come in and harm the environment. We know that we sit right on the edge of the bay, and climate is going to be really important. So ensuring that the development is going to be mixed use, that's going to come in. And when you're thinking about developing, we're talking about housing as well, including housing in this development, so that our residents who want to, who not just want, those who called East Palo Alto home a long time ago, still have a place to call home. Those are the developments that I'm interested in, and those are the developments that I would encourage.
Thank you, Lisa. Antonio, tell us about development.
If you look around all this city of 2.5 square miles, you will consistently see a community that is hungry for the hustle, but needs the opportunity. If you go to a corner of Minalto and Minalto, you'll see Brother Marcus Fitzhugh cutting hair. If you go to the west side on the garage, you'll see a taqueria, makeshift skillet. If you go to on Emmett Way, you'll see Brother William White, so it's Just Links, right? We have a community who are entrepreneurs. We don't need to learn it. We have it, right? We just need the opportunity and the space to do it. Right. And so when we think about development, when we think about where we want the city to be, you ask, and we talk about keeping capital, right? The black and brown dollar staying in East Palo Alto, right? You just have to funnel and give opportunities to those folks who've been doing this for years, even decades. Once upon a time, this city had 50 businesses. It was called the Whiskey Ghost. I don't need to give a history lesson, but then the Bayshore cut that in half, right? And so when we learn about history and the richness of the past, and learning about what we did to revitalize that community, we can take a footnote of that and say, hey, we still have people who've been doing this thing, as Sister Lisa was saying, for years. And they just want, for example, we can get first floor leasing on these floors, on that RBD or whatever area, right? And to do local hiring, right? To make sure that people feel that this city is theirs, that they have ownership for this area. And in addition to that, I also want to see at some point in this city, a community garden, right? We talk about public health, disparities in health. And when we talk about the richness of where we are, to me, it's important that we have the ecological aspect about it. And so imagine, right, folks can go to the Bayland Trail and they can pick up a tomato or carrot or squash. There's gathering points, fostering relationship between the black and brown community, which is so important as the demography is changing. So we need to reconfigure development so that it matches that change of demography, but it also fosters that community and make us stronger, because we're too small of a city to be infighting. We have to be solidarity. We have to stand together, and we need development that makes sure that looks like us, walks like us, and builds like us.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. Okay, we're going to move to Larry. Larry, talk to us about development, please.
Hi, thank you. Development for me is the second highest priority for my campaign, and I think it's certainly one of the highest priorities for the council. We worked very hard over the last 4 years to shore up our infrastructure, to position ourselves as a community so we can do the development projects that are meaningful and that are going to add to our future legacy as a city. I was involved in the acquisition of the water transfer from Mountain View to make sure that we had enough water in our pipelines so that development projects that would come to our counter, presently there's 15 or so projects, could put out a formal application for consideration for our planning commission and ultimately for our city council. I want a shovel and a crane in the sky at the corner of Bay and University. I want that 6.5 acre parcel to be developed. And I think Sandhill Property is the right partner to make that happen. I want to see us build out from Bay and University all the way out to Cooling Landing to do some light industrial activities out there, but also making sure that we maintain the vitality of Cooley Landing and that waterfront parcel. We have to create jobs, and we can only do that through development. We have to create an economic pathway for our general fund that increases our ability to do projects in the community, to pave the streets, to take care of the sidewalks, right? And to be a community that can attract, right, quality individuals to work in our city. We don't want our workforce to always be at the low end of the totem pole. Many of our students are coming back into the community. We got to create a pathway for them to get an affordable living wage that allow them to compete for affordable housing here in East Palo Alto. So this idea of not moving into the 21st century, I'm very much opposed to it. We are Silicon Valley. We have Silicon Valley flagship properties here in the community. I think our community in the future really deserves an opportunity to look like the Bay Area.
Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Carlos, talk to us about development, please.
Plan, plan, plan. You know, as someone who was involved in the late 1990s, early 2000s in the development struggles in the northeast of Mission District industrial area, as well as in the Mission where I led an affordable housing nonprofit, one of the things that we learned from those struggles with people of color, with working class folks and artists, is that if you do not plan and if you do not control those plans through aggressive community decision-making in which the plan gets crafted through a dialogue with community, you will never control your land future or your development future. We've done that in East Palo Alto, certainly with the Ravenswood specific plan and the general plan. Clearly, they circumscribe what developers can do. Remember, this is a question not of allowing developers to do what they want, but telling them what they should do within the confines of a plan. And again, we are in the process of reviewing and possibly revising the Ravenswood specific plan, which had as its principal purpose the creation of accessible jobs to people in East Palo Alto. But we will do that under our own terms and never allow developers to tell us that what they are providing us, that is the development itself, is the benefit. Because development for development's sake only benefits developers. And we as a community that has always put at the forefront self-determination need to make sure that in those planning processes, which we are moving forward now, certainly in the RBD, we are central to that discussion. So again, I want to emphasize that as community, we need to get involved in rethinking what we want to do out in the RBD, and maybe we don't want to do anymore. We just want to add the community benefits in order for people or developers to develop in the city. We need to set the rules, not them, and I've aggressively been trying to do that on City Council with the planning processes that I've moved forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Juan, tell us about development, please.
No doubt that that development is controversial in East Palo Alto. I think we all agree in here, you know, when it comes to future development in East Palo Alto, we all want to ensure we are negotiating the best benefits for our community. But the way I see it is that we need to ensure we are opening to development. Developers that want to invest in our city and are not only coming in here for their self-interest. These developers need to provide opportunities for our small businesses and create job opportunities for our youth and our current residents. I am tired of seeing developers come into our city and toss a chunk of money as a way to deflect their commitment to serving our city and bringing benefits to our city. You know, a chunk of money that is pocket change to them at the end of it all. And I want to ensure that whatever development that comes to East Palo Alto comes with its best attention, and we need leaders to ensure that we are holding them accountable to their end of the deal. You know, there's a lot of development that's coming to East Palo Alto, as many of our fellow candidates have mentioned. There's 2020 Bay Street. There's the development behind Chevron that's coming. And as a planning commissioner, we have been working as well prior to sending off these developments to City Council to ensure that our community, one, is heard, and two, they get the best benefits out of this. And that is what I want to continue to do as a council member if elected. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to move now to a different question about baylands and flood control, but really about climate change. What would you do to work with neighboring cities to maintain clean, healthy baylands and prepare for sea level rise, which is partially looking at what's happening with climate change? We're going to start this time with Stuart.
Well, the work of Actera with organizing residents in what is the climate change community team, I'm in agreement with what they're trying to do. Also, it's a goal of Save the Bay as well, to create, to use the marshland's natural ability to absorb. So to create what are called horizontal levees, rather than just a big wall, which would push the water back another way. The horizontal levee is basically a plane. It's raised up another plane and then another plane. That way, what allows the natural ability of the marshes to do what they do to mitigate that. And so what we would need to do is work with our neighboring cities that are also in a similar situation. We wouldn't want to have cities doing what Foster City is doing about building a seawall, which just pushes the water further down south towards us, actually. And also away from San Mateo, which has a shore view area, which is also affected. And I think we have really good partners in that when we think about open space. Mid-Peninsula Open Space would be the perfect group to have that discussion with. They have the resources, they have the ear of government. And if we were to partner with them in that discussion about trying to maintain our basic natural environment with a small change, would be a way to keep what Lisa was saying earlier about our beautiful baylands. Living in the garden area, it's someplace I take advantage of every weekend. I'm crossing that bridge and going by the golf course and the airport. My wife and I, we really enjoy it, and we would want to have a walled city as a way to do that. And so there's plenty of good allies here on the peninsula that we can partner with. And I would begin the discussion with Mid-Peninsula Open Space to talk about how to do that with other cities as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Lisa, your thoughts, please.
Sure, thank you. I'm fortunate to sit as an alternate on the San Francisco Creek JPA. And we have done some work to address at least the fluvial flooding that comes out of the hills that have impacted the gardens area. And many people who live in the gardens right now are protected from that flood because of the work of the San Francisco Creek JPA. Under the work of Lynn Matterman, we also, and with the city staff's help, we received a grant that's going to address help East Palo Alto to address its sea level rise. But we know water knows no boundaries. If we protect East Palo Alto will still be impacted, and we don't think about our neighbors. I'm also fortunate to be sitting on the board for East Palo Alto for the flood and sea level rise for San Mateo County, which we recently enacted last year. And what it's going to do, it's allowing all the 20 jurisdictions or 21 jurisdictions to work together to address sea level rise. We know that Foster City did its work way before we were able to get to work with them, but everybody is sitting at the table and looking at not only sea level rise, but the other areas within the county that is flooding and impacting low-income communities, because many of the flood happens in the communities of color, and we want to be able to address that. So that's where we are. Flood sea level rise, we're working on it. It is going to have to be a regional approach and not just San Mateo County. We know that San Francisco County has to be a part of it in the airport as well as anybody else that's touching the bay. We all have to work together to make sure that we're all addressing the sea level rise.
Thank you, Lisa. Antonio, please tell us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I'm very also coming on Brother Stewart's comments. I'm proud to live in the Gardens area, and we certainly do take full advantage of that beautiful Baylands Trail. And I think something that I'm thinking about is also empowering our community. I think part of a city leadership not only has to just do the executive decision making, but to make sure that that work is percolating, that information percolates to our community members, especially I'm thinking of the cul-de-sacs on O'Connor, right? The folks on Runnymede, people literally on the frontier of these projects, and making sure, are they prepared? Are they equipped for, God forbid, something happens? And so when I think of things about how we can help improve our issues of flooding, to me, it begins and ends with education, right? So I would work with the climate change community team, which is a nonprofit in Palo Alto, which brought people together to create local solutions for a healthy planet. And in 2019, they published this study which said that about trying to figure out what the residents' attitudes were. And it's important to know that last year they found the residents were, or while they were aware of climate change, quote, are not directly concerned about climate change, but are concerned about climate change related issues and primarily related to flooding. And I don't think it is hyperbolic to say that with the wildfires that have been occurring, pulmonary effects it's had in our community, it is imperative that our community knows what to do, and it's not just the folks leadership on the top making the decisions. And so I want to do an aggressive public outreach campaign so that way regular folks know about the situations, know what the leadership is doing, and knows what to do if flooding starts to occur. Secondly, if memory comes to serve, the last final climate action plan we had as a city was in 2011. 9 years is a long time for climate change. And so I want us to review as a city to have a common strategic vision for those 23 actionable items that we said, how to protect the environment. We need to reevaluate that. We need to go back to the drawing board and see what we're gonna do. And more importantly, equally as important, inform the community of the city council's moves moving ahead.
All right, thank you, Antonio. Larry, tell us your view about this, please.
Well, my view is let me just say this. One of the nice the things about our present city council is that many of the responsibilities we have as council members is to move into these arenas where these regional conversations are had, where our learning curve can be increased because we have representation there. And Lisa has done a great job, as well as Ruben Abrica, of being our leaders at the tables, talking about climate change, talking about sea level rise, Save the Bay efforts and initiatives. That's one of the things about being a council member, that we all realize that we can't be experts on every topic, right? But the information that we bring back to the city council gives us a pathway to make decisions that's going to benefit the community as a whole. Now, one of the things that we have learned locally over the last 2 years is that we need to have better partnerships with our local nonprofit organizations and our Ravenswood City School District. We got to get the word out to our local community that they too can participate in the outcomes of a healthy environment, a healthy East Palo Alto, and that these issues related to sea level rise, they can make a difference there as well. Stuart mentioned how we all enjoy walking along the Baylands. One of the places that we can start is making sure that the Baylands is a clean area, a place where it's community friendly, that we're not allowing blight to take place there, and that we can enjoy the waterways. I hope that we can get back to a place where the Bay is a place of recreational activities, where we can get kayaks and boating and fishing taking place right there at Cooley Landing and right there along the Bay. But as the sirens are sounding throughout the region, I think we're learning each and every day about what's the best practices. There's leadership that's taking place, and we're lucky to have representatives on our council to position us as a council to make some concerted decisions that's going to help us all down the road.
Thank you, Larry. Carlos, please talk to us and tell us about Baylands flood control, climate change.
Yes, the cataclysmic environmental impacts of unbridled growth and really the excesses of finance capital in this country and around the world have really led us to a crisis point. And we understood a long time ago in East Palo Alto, actually going back to 2011, when I was mayor, and we actually applied for a feeder grant, the pilot grant, to work on the sea level rise issue at the same time that we were working with the local fluvial issue, flooding issue. We were successful in getting about $5 million through the planning and the engineering studies to look at comprehensively addressing the issue of flooding for sea level rise, as well as a 100-year flood. We subsequently applied for, with Len Matterman and the San Francisco Creek SFJPA. I was the former member of that body as an alternate, and received about 7 months ago a $22 million grant to address what is being called the Safer Bay Project, which includes Menlo Park, East Palo Alto, and Palo Alto, to figure out how we can design both horizontal and vertical levees to protect our communities. It is a collective effort. And the only way we can move forward, as some folks have said, is if we all join hands, or levies, horizontal or vertical, and address this issue. We cannot stand by ourselves, but we cannot wait for others. And that is the reason that as a city, we have proactively moved in that direction, have the money now to start building those levees, and have done the design in collaboration with Menlo Park and Palo Alto. I'm proud to say that Safer Bay is an example that's being used by the MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, as a way of addressing comprehensively the issues and the massive crisis we have with sea level rise and environmental damage. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Juan, could you tell us your thoughts on this topic, please?
Yeah, climate change is a very serious issue, as everyone here has mentioned. You know, it's impacting civilians worldwide, and East Palo Alto is not unique to the fact. But, you know, in 2002, I believe, East Palo Alto set goals to reduce our carbon emissions by 15% by 2020. So what I want to do as a council member is revisit that climate action plan and see how we can set new robust goals to ensure that we are setting the example to communities around us. You know, you mentioned about how we can better work with other communities. I think this whole process should include better communication and building alliances with local nonprofits and other cities, neighboring cities, as I mentioned. The way we address climate action and climate action is, you know, through partnerships. I don't think that East Palo Alto single-handedly and anyone single-handedly could address this issue. The more we're able to use our resources and the people around us, the better. I believe Yucca is doing a great work teaching our youth at a young age, you know, about the impacts and that they have in our community members and what they can, and like how Larry Moody mentioned, you know, we can make this a plan where everyone feels like they're contributing to a better good and a better East Palo Alto. I want to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels and move towards new sources of power like solar and wind, and implement more infrastructure in our city that's more sustainable for all East Palo Alto residents. You know, I think Gavin Newsom just mentioned that he wants to roll out gas cars by 2035, I believe, or something like that. So how are we preparing as a city to make that transition, and help, most importantly, how are we helping our residents make that transition? We need, and then I think Antonio said it best, you know, it all starts and ends with education. We need to educate our community educate our community members more about climate change and what they can be doing to help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Webster, your thoughts, please.
So climate change is real. You can go and look outside right now. There's smoke in the air. You can't even see the sun. You know, a few weeks ago, we had thunder and lightning that devastated a region and burned down state parks. Year after year, we're seeing California burning. So we need to do something, and we need to take it seriously. Unfortunately, we don't have leadership in this country that recognizes climate change as something that's occurring. But we need to start at the grassroots level and work as a community to combat these changes. I believe half the gardens is supposed to be underwater within the next 50 years. And so I know there's some capital improvement projects that are occurring or that are being planned in process to combat that, you know, to put up a physical barrier. But my priority as a council member would be to integrate emissions impact into all city decision making. And I would work on zoning changes to incentivize green building. I would help form a climate change committee to conduct a citywide greenhouse gas audit and to make sure that we're establishing a baseline that we can build from and taking a data-driven approach. Together, we have to come together as a region to solve these problems, and as a country, and nationally, and throughout around the world. And what we can do as citizens and as council members is to take climate change seriously and not put it off until the next day or even the next year. We need to start now. Thank you.
Thank you. And that finishes that question. Believe it or not, we were at 8 o'clock, and I want to thank everyone who has who has submitted additional questions. We have a ton of additional questions, but we don't have time for all of them. So what I'm going to do now is ask you to go to your closing statements. We're going to have these in the opposite order of the opening statements. So we're going to start with Larry with your closing statement. And I remind each of you again that you have 2 minutes.
Thank you once again. I really appreciate the fact that in today's East Palo Alto, we have 7 candidates who are really interested in being a part of the leadership for our future. We come from unique backgrounds, but we all have a committed heart to seeing the best East Palo Alto that we can create. I am one who is really engaged in the topic of moving this community forward. I think we have planned and planned and planned for our future. And I think it's time for us to start seeing the fruits of that. We need to develop projects. We have 70 acres of land in East Palo Alto scheduled for development where we can put a shovel in the ground and create some jobs. We have the ability to move this community in such a way that our sons and daughters and our grandchildren can really be proud to invite people to the East Palo Alto community. We certainly have the opportunity to lift up our head and have the confidence that today's East Palo Alto is certainly different from the narrative of the 1990s. And we have talent in this community that continues to demonstrate that they want to be a part of building up the infrastructure of the community, creating a quality of life here in East Palo Alto that we all can participate in and all be proud of. Now, we have the distinction of being the pass-through city where thousands of cars pass through our community each and every day to land in other communities where they're making millions of dollars for those communities. And then they come back and they pass through East Palo Alto. At some point, we have to create a stop point. We have to create a community where people want to stop, participate, spend, and add to the economy of scale here. And the last thing I would say, we can't lose sight of the fact that our seniors, who we've built this community on their shoulders, deserves to see the promise of East Palo Alto that has been talked about for 4 decades. We can do it. Our council right now is poised to make that happen. And we have a wonderful staff that's equipped, right, for such a time as this to make East Palo Alto a city that's coveted by all. Thank you, Linda, and I'll stop right there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Antonio, your statement, please.
I want to give a quote by the late Dr. King. He said, "We came on different ships, but now we're in the same boat." He said that referring to the Black American community, which is absolutely important for historical marker. But I think it's beautiful to understand East Palo Alto in the bones of this city has always been a refuge for those who have been rejected, whether we're talking about the Black people who weren't allowed in Palo Alto or Menlo Park through housing subdivisions, or they were blockbusted, right? In the DNA of this city has been to accept everyone. And now we're in that new wave in COVID of asking ourselves, what kind of community are we going to be when we have increasing rent prices, when we have people being joblessness? We have a crisis, right? And I'm a firm believer in the spiritual tradition that everything happens for a reason. And if there's any silver lining in COVID, if there's any beyond the depths and the despair, it is that the status quo is not sustainable. We simply cannot run things the exact same way. We have schools that are scrambling to get our kids to learn. We are scrambling to put Wi-Fi in our areas so that way students can be able to get education. We're getting learning pods, right? So we need people who can innovate, who are proactive, who when the next crisis comes, knows what's gonna happen, right? Like in COVID with Italy and South Korea, we knew it was gonna happen. So what did we as a city leadership do? And it's important to be critical of that and ask the next folks in line to be prepared and perceive what are we going to do? That is why my field team, which is composed of all young high school kids and college kids, I'm very proud to say, we're passing out COVID care package. We're giving out masks, hand sanitizer, snacks, because we're saying to each community, you matter, right? Whether you're an elderly Black homeowner or a young Latina single mother, right? You are part of this city and you deserve to stay here. And we as youth want to set that example. That is why as a 26-year-old man, I am running for city council. I am honored to be in this table with y'all, but I want to learn from the Bridgicas of the world, the Omawadis of the world, the elders of our community, and pass down that vision, because we need a new vision for EPA, because frankly, if we do not, we will go under in the literal and figurative sense.
Okay, thank you so much, Antonio. Lisa, your closing statement, please.
Sure, thank you. You know, we're in such a great place. Look at the candidates who are up for this council this year. East Palo Alto is a city on the move. We're a treasure by the bay. You know, when the county left us lemons, this city created lemonade, and we continue to develop and work hard to keep this city moving forward. You know, I am proud to be on the board of Live in Peace that has been innovative during this time of COVID, of making sure that individuals have money to pay their rents. As we're talking about individuals who are being left out and left behind, it is Live in Peace that has put that money up. Live in Peace has been the ones that have been able to put together the pods, because we know that many of our families don't have the internet that's necessary to be able to work at home. We are innovative. We're doing things. I'm on the front line almost every day at the Boys and Girls Club to ensure that the food insecurity that happens in East Palo Alto, where people are trying to decide if they're going to be able to pay their rent or have food or pay for medicine, we are giving out food to help fill the gap. And I'm asking the city of East Palo Alto and the residents here to continue to allow me to do the work that we are doing on the council. And I look forward to working with our council members, and I hope that you'll continue to support us in the effort to continue to move East Palo Alto forward. We may not have all the answers, but you know what this city does? We come together and we work together. We're greater together than we are apart. This city will not fail. We will never fail. When the San Mateo County wanted us to fail, we still made it, and East Palo Alto will continue to make it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Stuart, your closing statement, please.
I just want to say thanks to Antonio for reminding me, the organizer, that, yeah, you know, it does come from the streets. And what Lisa says, I want to be explicit about it. When she says we come together, when I was organizing, it was folks from St. Francis Church, it was folks from Faith Baptist Church, going to the city council and said, this needs to happen. This problem, like running meat gardens, can't be sold to some for-profit developer, has to be sold to Mid-Penn. Things like that, where it comes from the streets, it comes from our faith houses, where the leadership is, or at least the compass for the leadership of the city. We have to come to the city and be really vocal about that. So that's where I'm coming from. And that's where I'm going to go back to, is the leadership, but feet on the ground. And from this, I'm going to take a quote that Larry Moody likes to say: we have to put feet to our faith, which means you don't stay inside the walls of the church to do the work that has to be done. You have to go outside. And so that's the tradition I come from. And I think the fire needs to be back in the city council going forward. I can't say that the work of the city council so far hasn't been great. I can't say that the folks that did what they did in incorporation were really prepared for the systemic racism that brought the drugs to the city of East Palo Alto in the 90s. But I can say this, that I have an understanding of what systemic racism is and how to dismantle that and how to get allies to do that. And I think even more so at this time during the COVID, when the COVID could be the next perfect eviction solution for some developers, for some folks who want to take over this city, it's really important to have that defensive mindset, that intelligence about how do we protect our people in a way that they can grow and nurture them. And that's what I would plan on bringing to the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Okay, Webster, your closing statement, please.
Running for city council is a way for me to give back to my community. I grew up here in East Palo Alto, like many of the other candidates. I grew up when East Palo Alto was the murder capital of the United States. Regardless of that, a lot of good has come out of East Palo Alto, and I'm one of many people who have been successful because of the programs and the investment that has occurred in the community over the years. So as a council member, I want to work to make sure that we continue to provide that foundation for young people in our community. I also want to work and invest in and support programs within our city that support job training and also support small businesses by providing them with loans and grants. And also I want to encourage residents who grew up here to be able to come back. I spoke with someone and he has the same sentiment that many other people have in terms of his daughter graduating from college and not having many options to come back to other than living with her parents. So providing down payment assistance where it gives people an equal opportunity to purchase a home that they wouldn't be able to get on their own without saving a lot of money. I also want to support job training and STEM education initiatives within East Palo Alto. I work as a data scientist at Genentech, and I've benefited from a lot of programs in robotics when I was in high school, engineering classes that they first brought on at Menlo Atherton. And that has helped me throughout my life. So I also, and last but not least, want to work to provide and produce more income, a diverse array of housing for all income levels and demographics, and protect our existing supply of affordable housing. And I will make sure that new development is serving the residents of East Palo Alto and doesn't come at the cost of displacement. We need competent and committed leadership in these trying times of COVID-19 because there's going to be a tidal wave of evictions and foreclosures. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Webster. Juan, your closing statement, please.
Everyone for tuning in tonight. And I just want to say and leave off with, if we want to address the many problems our community is facing, unemployment, the housing shortage, traffic, missing infrastructure in our streets, and a divisive atmosphere, we need leaders who understand and are willing to reach out to every neighborhood, forming partnerships with our residents, our businesses, our nonprofit organizations, and our faith-based communities to find solutions. East Palo Alto residents need a champion, and I want to be that champion. Currently, we are facing new challenges in our economy and democracy. And as a community of essential workers, the coronavirus has disproportionately impacted our community, and we need a plan to recover now more than ever. East Palo Alto as a whole can't succeed unless everyone in East Palo Alto succeeds. And that is why I'm running for city council. I am running to create more affordable housing, mitigate our traffic congestion, improve our economic development, and begin reimagining a better East Palo Alto for all. I am passionate about the need to invest in our youth. Similar to Antonio, that is why my team is made up of East Palo Alto graduates, and college students who are itching for an opportunity and a leader that will listen to them. I am running for city council because I want our city to keep its rich culture while also embracing new ideas. I am running because the residents of East Palo Alto are not asking for a lot. They're simply asking city council members to help them get by. I am running because I firmly believe that together we can build a better East Palo Alto for all, and an East Palo Alto that will serve our children for generations to come. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan. Carlos, your closing statement, please.
What this city needs is confident, progressive, just, and community-driven leadership that is centered on social justice and economic justice issues. I think I have brought that to the city council for the last 10 years that I've worked on it. And I think I've done that for the last 38 years that I've lived in East Palo Alto, whether it was working with Apache or doing immigrant rights work, or certainly working on economic, or representing the economic interests of people who are getting wiped out of Whiskey Gulch. I am indeed a seasoned organizer and an activist, but at the same time, a competent urban development, urban planning professional. Those skills are vitally needed right now if they are coupled with a strong social justice compass. I bring that. Affordable housing is clearly extremely important. We need to fund more affordable housing projects. We clearly need to implement, and we just received $2 million to implement a second unit garage subsidy program. We need to do a lot of infrastructure work. We actually have a relatively strong capital improvement program going forward that is going to be building and funding new water mains, certainly be funding the second phase of the creek flood prevention project. On the economic development side, very important for us to implement HH to make sure that people in the community are actually able to get jobs in STEM and building trades. That is possible because we put Measure HH on the ballot and fought for it. We also need to revise our first source hiring ordinance so we can hire local people. And we also need to make sure that if we revise the Ravenswood Business District, it represents community interests and not the interests of the developers. We need to be the ones that set the rules, and as long as I'm on council, I will certainly be pushing for that community direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank each and every one of you candidates for your participation, your willingness to first run for this important office, and also to be here with us this evening. If you in the audience had a question that was not answered, that we did not get to, I suggest that perhaps you go to the candidate websites and try to contact them individually to get their views on your question. We want to thank all of our league team members who helped this evening and the Mid-Penn Media Center for assisting us tonight. They made this possible for us. We thank you, the audience, for coming, and we want to remind you how important it is to vote. This is just a particularly important election. I think it's the most important election in my lifetime. You've seen the local candidates, we have county, we have state, and we also have a national election, and every single vote counts, and we need you to be there. So please do what you can to vote on between now and November 3rd. There's a slide up here now that tells you all the different ways that you can vote in San Mateo County. Please go out and do this. Get your friends and relatives, everyone you know, to vote for us. As a reminder, be sure to look up the additional information about the candidates and both state and local measures. And you can also see a video replay of this forum that will be posted soon on the League's election website, which is www.voters, V-O-T-E-R-S, edge.org. And again, thank you so much for everyone for being here. I wish to the candidates, I appreciate all of your attention and help to make this an easy forum to moderate, and I wish you all luck in the coming election. Thank you.